So we have our panel discussion on the topic Transcending Change, Essential Skills for the AI Era. We have our moderator, Dr. Jayasankar Prasad, Director of DCMAT. He is currently the Director of DCMAT Institutions and was the Managing Director of Kerala State IT Infrastructure Limited. He has been an inspiration to many young, innovative minds of the state. His expertise encompasses organizational leadership, policy formulation, project consulting, and implementation with roles of both government and private sectors, combining technical and managerial proficiency. Inviting you, sir. And the panel, Dr. Saji Gopinath. He was the director of the Indian Institute of Information and Technology, Kozhikode, and currently he is the Vice Chancellor of Digital University of Kerala. He was credited with the creating vibrant technology startup ecosystem and was recognized as a state startup champion twice in the government of India. He is a constant supporter of innovation and valid education. And we have Mr. Anoop Ambika. He was the CEO of GenPro Research, helping merge AI and ML into medical fields. And he is now the CEO of Kerala Startup Mission, continuing to pave the way of budding startups. And we have Jibu Elias. He is a Mozilla Responsible Computing Fellow and co-creator of INDIAai. He is also a consultant for curriculum design in artificial intelligence and a member of World Economic Forum. And we have Anubhav Singh, Google developer expert. He founded the Code Foundation and the co-founder of CallChim.ai. He is also the Google developer expert in machine learning language and Google Cloud Platform and continues to be a constant technological innovator. Okay, unfortunately, he has to leave now, so we'll start the panel discussion with the members.
Okay, thank you for the invite and thank you for the patient listening because the audience are still around. So we'll keep it very short and simple.
Great. We have Jibu. He's the chief architect of JioCinema. So he is here, so he will be joining the panel. Yeah, architect. Yeah. So all the IPL that we have been live streaming, that is, he was the man behind that. Yeah, let's welcome him.
Yeah. Okay. I think we'll keep it. The format will be very simple. I think the topic has been discussed from morning onwards, and we're all talking about what are the skills that are going to be critical in this era of AI. I have got a very, very interesting panel. You have now, I call you an entertainment specialist or an architect into the entertainment industry. Is that correct?
You can just say that you can just say that I know things about programming. I'm not an architect, by the way. I am a senior director there. I have a bunch of interesting people who I work with, and they help us take a lot of interesting decisions.
Okay.
I just oversee. I'm just the person available to help them execute things.
Exactly. Right. Okay. Thank you. And then we had Jibu and part of the Mozilla Foundation. I think he works with a lot of skilling, and they are working on a lot of what do you call that? Frameworks for skilling and usage of that. So he can talk about it. We have Anoop, who heads the Kerala Startup Mission. So he can talk about what the entrepreneurs and young, we have been seeing some very young stars on stage. So he can talk about what the young entrepreneurs are bringing to table and what are the opportunities. We also have Dr. Saji Gopinath, who is now deciding on the maybe one of the major factors for the curriculum, academics, and how we are building this workforce or even the youngsters for tomorrow. I think, let me start from you. What do you think from your industry perspective? What are the skills that you look forward to, or how do you think the whole skilling thing is developing?
I think to a large extent, skilling, in fact, getting started with anything, right? The most important ingredient becomes curiosity. Uh, we hear a lot of people say, be curious, and you have to be innately curious, right? Trust me, curiosity is what leads you to ask the questions that say, hey, why is this thing even working? A lot of people understand how to use ChatGPT, right? Almost everybody does. Very few people go in asking, why does this even work? The people who ask these questions end up being the people who discover how this gets done, and then can potentially, even, it's just like a funnel. uh, they could potentially change the way these things then work, and hopefully help us evolve further. So curiosity is what I innately look for whenever I interview, even for my current organization or in the past.
Okay, that's a curiosity, of course, is a base for everything. But then, uh, even when you talk about AI and other skills, there are various levels to it. So, Jibu, if I come to you and I understand that you were working on a framework, so if I, as a humanities person, was using AI tools, then I use it as at a very lower level. Somebody at a programming level whom we have seen might use it at a development a particular model for something, or even tying up a few already available codes to create something new. Somebody might be redefining the entire model itself. So there are various levels of it. And what are the various career paths available, or what are the real pathways on this? Actually, can you just elaborate on that?
Yeah. So before I start, I just want to correct something. When I introduced, they told me I'm the member of World Economic Forum. It's not like that. I'm the member of the Global Future Council on AI under the World Economic Forum. So yeah, coming to this, so I've been working on this project by the German Innovation Corporation, which is part of federal German government. We are looking at creating micro-credential curriculum on AI for non-technical students. And this is for the global south. So the three countries that comes under my preview is India, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. We are working with one Humboldt University in Germany and a few other universities in India. So the idea here is, how does a curriculum for AI curriculum for an economic student, BA economic student looks like, or an AI curriculum for a BA English literature student looks like? The 90 or 99% of courses out there, introductory courses on AI, everything is focused on trying to teach you to code. uh, my belief is that you don't need to learn to code to use AI, right? We all use chat gpt, we use perplexity, we use midjourney, we use so many tools regularly. It's like when the computers came, we didn't learn to build applications on Windows. We just used Word and PowerPoint. So what we are trying to do is, we were trying to envision what will happen in the next 5-10 years to a student of agriculture sciences. What if that student take a micro credential course on AI for agriculture science student? What are the areas he should focus on? So the areas he should leverage will be something like pattern recognition, which can be used for pest detection, or more working with IoT. He doesn't need LLM mostly. For an economist, it will be forecasting, modeling and things like that. So that's, we are working on that. We just presented the curriculum to ICNU, to a panel of ICNU, Banaras Hindu University, Hansraj College, Jamia Millia Islami, and few other institutions. So we are now taking their feedback, and we are working with the German partner to build this. And then we will be, Mozilla will be also chipping in and working on a career pathway on some of these specific subject-wise programs.
I think when you talk about not learning the code, but just the application part of it, learning how to use it, then the ethical considerations of how well you use it, for what you use it, and how much credit you gain for it, those becomes a question which I'll follow up on the next time. But Anoop, I think to have an enterprise which is earning commercial value, or becoming a disruptor in any industry, I think it will have to go beyond the application part of it. I think you can't tie up everything together and maybe you can make a mock-up, but then getting it really into a commercial experience for the users and getting it to be valued at a very high rate from an entrepreneurship or a startup point of view, how deep, or what are the skills that you really look forward to from your entrepreneurs on this?
Yeah, I think frankly, I don't know what the skills are, but I can tell you a few experiences that I've had in the past. So we started this journey, and I'm not talking from a startup mission perspective, but from a startup perspective, building models for generating text and paraphrasing and summarization, all that stuff from 2017, right? So what happened in 2021 was that all the work that we have done, that we amateurs have done in developing the models that he talked about, that understanding the transformers and how does it work and what is neural networks and attention models and all that stuff, all that hard work just went down the drain because an open AI or uh, a llama or some of those bigger models had a lot of resources and a lot of compute by which they were able to make large language models. So now we are at a stage where we are becoming users of that model. Much like we are users of Netflix, we are users of Amazon, we are users of Google, we are now users of LLMs that are being developed. So what can you really do? You can now transform the career in which you are in. If I'm a teacher, I can transform teaching using AI. If I'm a programmer, I can transform programming using AI. If I'm a writer, I can transform writing using AI. I think so the large amount of jobs or skills are going to be around using the AI models that is already developed by a large corporate, which will open up a lot of new job openings. The other side of the story is refining the model, which means that I've got an LLM, let's say Llama, open source LLM, and if you want to make it useful for a particular use case, let's say for all the government schemes that are available in Kerala, I want to create a chatbot which will give exact answers, for which I will collect some data and refine or retrain that model for this particular data set so that the model performs contextually better. Because most of the problems that happen with the current GPT is that you ask some stupid questions, then it'll give you stupid answers. There is a lot of hallucination that is happening by the model. So how do you get away with that hallucination? By refining or retraining the model and collecting data sets. So that becomes another skill set, right? So I want to do something in medical. I collect medical data, take an existing LLM model, retrain that model and make it better for the current context. Those are two areas that we could think about. Then you could get into the nitty-gritties of the model itself, which is what he was talking about. That is the mathematical side of it, which is a little too hard for us, but not not doable, not impossible. Let me just put it that way. But you need deep mathematical algorithmic skills to be touching that. So I'll generally classify it as users of LLM, which will transform the careers, generation of data and retraining of models, which will make it better for a particular context that you are in. And the third one is the deep mathematical work, wherein you go and change the model itself for a particular use case. So these are the three different areas that I can think of.
So, coming to you, sir. Now, where do you hit for a engineering? Like, let me look at it from the Kerala Technical University point of view. Where do you look at it from an engineering perspective? What kind of skill sets are you building? Are you building at a user level or a tweaker or somebody to manipulate it or somebody to build all over again? I think what level of skill sets are we trying to build it? That is one. And as a academician, when you start using these models, where do you think is going to be the limiting factor, which is going to be the opportunity in terms of teaching? So one is where are your focus, and the other one is what is going to be your limiting factors or your challenges?
On the first question, I think we need to do all, because we have a heterogeneous group in any engineering education. There may be people who actually go and develop mathematical models, like what Anoop said, who may actually be contributing to the development of next stage of AI per se, or the technology per se. So we need some people like that. Second is there will be a large number of people who are going to drive this transformation, which is again a very important element because almost every area is going to get transformed. So you need to make people aware of that. How, and that's basically the curiosity comes in, which he mentioned, and how do you actually look at from an AI lens is to be given. And third is we also look at how do we actually work on applications and tools per se on that. So these are the three levels in which we need to make our curriculum flexible enough. It's not necessarily everybody has to do everything. Somebody who is actually going to specialize and start looking at advancing this a body of knowledge itself, we have to have courses which aligns that. So in the new curriculum, we are trying to add to that. But I think I will add one more element to this, and that is something which an education institution have to provide. That is, education institution is not only to provide people who will use tools or develop tools, but also good human beings. So one important aspect we need to teach in the new curriculum or anywhere is that look at these things very critically. Today we know that if you look at most of the AI models, they actually work on the data sets which are available. The two aspects come. One, there is a bias in the data set. Second, there is a social bias which created the data set itself. So these are two things. One is data set itself is biased. Second is there is a mindset which is actually creating a social thinking in this order. These are the areas where an education institution should contribute. We need to ask this question. So I used to jokingly say that in maybe my grandfather, when he adds something in a calculator, he will actually add physically also. So we say they never used to trust the technology. Over the years, we say that trust the technology fully. We now have to tell our youngsters that don't trust the technology fully. You ask this question, why technology is giving you this answer? Is it because there is some sort of an inherent bias, or is there is a social order which requires change? That I think is the need for the education institutions, because this, if you don't teach them, the world will not advance. We will advance technologically, but the world will actually become a very dangerous place in the days to come. So that is a fourth element which I believe education institutions have to do it. We have already done that in school curriculum to some extent in the new curriculum. In the college curriculum also, we may have to actually start looking at it, because this is some sort of a sub layer which makes people to question the thought processes which actually give you this sort of results in at least in social and behavioral context. So these are the four elements which we are trying to bring in the into curriculum, but I'm not sure how far it is successful, but that is something which we are trying to attempt. Yeah, as an educator, I think if you look back, a large number of our time is actually wasted on very routine tasks, which can actually be used using the technology per se. So AI for a student lifecycle management. So if you look at one of the biggest challenges which we used to say that any teacher or any school faces is that you have a heterogeneous group of people, but we actually give standard content. We assume they are homogeneous, because we didn't have the power of analyzing the data of each of the students. That's why small classrooms becomes very effective. AI can actually solve this issue. It can become a highly precision-oriented learning. It recognizes that each individual is different, and their data, if you can analyze and do it, which technology helps you, a good teacher can actually excel his or her skills substantially to that. So that is an area where it can work. Plus, of course, it can automate many of the student life cycle. But I believe that moving from, we used to say that, no, I mean, just take a couple of minutes more, sorry for that. If you look at pre-industrial era, you had very small classrooms or gurukulas where everybody knows, every teacher knows every student's skills. But the challenge was that this education was not accessible. It was accessible only to few people. The moment you move to mass world, education becomes accessible, but our classrooms become so huge. Quality has gone. Everybody has assumed as a, now we go to the third layer where we go into where it's a precision education at scale. That's basically where AI will help as an educator. That's what it helps me.
So just coming back to you on the question of recruitment, you are on a technology edge in your industry. Would you just recruit a person based on purely by curiosity? No. You would look at qualification, you would look at skill sets, And probably tomorrow it could be portfolios, like we saw some of our young friends who build portfolios before you and then showcase their experience there. So how do you see the whole recruitment in that, or the skills, the way of measuring skills changing from an industry perspective?
So in all honesty, I've spent about 12 years in the industry, right? I've done hiring at almost 80% of all the places that I've worked. Interestingly, a common pattern that I see is we look at multiple facets of a person, right? The first is, and this is not just limited to people in AI, right? Everywhere, the ability for this person to be able to use and understand the areas that we are hiring them for. I am trying to answer this in a generic format. So if I am going to hire somebody in the AI space, I want to understand how well do they understand things, and how they have come to be. What are some previous projects where they have used it? A lot of people say, what about freshers then? Like I've started, I run a small community where I teach. I keep telling everybody that make sure you are not waiting for your first job to be able to work on a project. In today's era, you have the power of open source software. They are all hungry to get great minds to help them, right? And or sometimes just minds to help them and then become great, right? I mean, the way you look at it. So have strong projects which become the proof that you know how to do anything in that industry, right? Once that is done, a very common stage then that we assess is we give you a small problem statement, right? You try and solve for it on the spot. Maybe take the next 45 minutes, help me understand how you would think about solving this. You don't have to write code at this point, right? You just help me understand your breadth and depth, depending upon the role again, right? A lot of people again end up getting stuck on the 3 or 4 examples. If you were to take a coding example, people would be like, oh, think of a Book My Show clone or this clone or that clone. They do not extract out the generic uh, uh, you know generics of system design, for that matter, right? My advice is to understand why things are being done the way they are done. That's why curiosity does seep in at every stage, because if you've been doing that while you were working somewhere else doing a small project or anything, you would understand everything there is to know about that, right? And obviously not everybody is able to kind of get 100%, but then companies are not looking for 100%. They're looking for a bar. The moment you meet that bar, companies hire. That's also an interesting way to look at it. And lastly, thanks for reminding me about this. The last stage in most companies these days, you would hear values round, you would hear bar raiser round. All of these end up being a very clear filter. This is where somebody senior is talking to you. You have proven that you can work, in the field that you're applying for. Now we're trying to assess if we as a company are a good fit for you, and you as a person are a good fit for this company. Because at the end of the day, the kind of things that we end up working on today, these days in the industry, you are exposed to millions of users, right? And if the world is going to be using this product, I want to make sure you think before you leap, right? And that's where we did all have some sort of ethics in our schools, right? That's something that India has always had. But getting a ethics course in college would be so important for as a reminder, because by the time you are in 12th year, nobody's talking about that anymore, right? And so now you've chosen a field. Let's remind you what's coming next, and hopefully make more ethical people. And one red flag again, I have a lot of students here. I just want to talk about one quick thing. One big red flag that we see sometimes in students and applicants is the fact that they start talking about me, myself. Oh, I did this project. Oh, you know what? The person that I was working was not able to do anything. And so I had to carry the entire burden. That sometimes sends a, you know, it's one of the biggest red flags, because then you are not able to help this other person, or that you could have given some easy part of this or explain it to them. Because guess what, when you enter the industry, these things are going to happen. You might be the best person, right? But then if you don't know how to work with a team, which is one of the most important things alongside curiosity, then you're not going to be able to help the organization. You're just helping yourself. So these are some
Fair enough.
interesting.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
curiosity, teamwork, values, and all those things are fine. So, brings to Jibu, your area of like responsible or ethical AI, I think would have been discussed anyway. But we've seen in the open source community itself. I think you take up a lot of effort from the crowdsource stuff. You create your own thing and then charge an IP on it. So how much of responsible? So similar thing is going to happen with AI tools and other stuff also. So what do you comment on that?
So there is this. So there is this big question about how much of open source, yeah,
Exist. Thank you. Exist in future, because what happens when you create an open source project and it get acquired by a tech giant? That's the biggest question, right? Then there is a other kind of open source, like Meta comes and say Llama is open source. How much open source it is? So the thing that's happening is everything needed to be redefined. I think Sunny had some very good points, and Anoop sir and Saji sir also mentioned things are changing in a way. I think one big takeaway here is forget about the 9 to 5 tech job. Like Sunny mentioned, it's about projects. And to get involved in projects, you don't need to have that first job. We just saw two brilliant youngsters who showcased their ability just before our panel, right? So, but one big question is, how do we ensure? I think, piggybacking on what Sunny said, how do we ensure that the next generation of students are not just cheap tech laborers? I think that's my gripe with the Indian IT industries, right? They thrived on cheap tech labor, service industries. They never innovated. So how do we make sure that this next generation is not someone like that, but who are imaginative, talented, and solves our generations long socio-economic problem? And it is happening right now. Like you have seen startups like Niramai, which is a breast cancer diagnostic startup, or Cure AI, Cropin. So many startups coming in with the space of AI, right? And even there are startup in shrimp farming called Aqua Connect. They look at shrimp farmers. So how do you build this kind of tool? So that's where I think you mentioned one of my workouts, Mozilla also comes in. How do we make sure the tech students are not just techies? How do we make sure they have extra talents, extra superpowers, as I say? So we are working on with 10 universities in India, IIT Delhi, IIT Indore, Guwahati, Ashoka. Three of them are in Kerala. I mean, happy to say that Sajisa's University is one of them. We are working to ensure that the next generation of students are not just coders, but much responsible, much socially aware. So for that, we take components from other elements. So one of the programs working on by Marian College is like, how do you create internet for the disabled people? We always see things in black and white. Now I have people came and said who has certain disabilities that they can't read the captcha. We took it for granted, right? Typing in captcha, but people can't read that. The color blindness is a spectrum. Some of them can't recognize the buttons. So now we are thinking, how do we ensure we build internet or government websites like that? So that's one of the project under RCC. So I think that's at the beginning. It's a beginning that, sir, you asked this question and we are agreeing with this. We are agreeing as a good beginning. But things are going to change. We need to understand that the existing notion of jobs won't be the same going forward.
I'll come to the Vice Chancellor before I go to Anoop to conclude. So, having heard from both of them in terms of creating a portfolio, creating what I may say that it's having a humanities side to probably engineering. So, how much have we absorbed it into our curriculum? I mean, does a portfolio give me credits in my exams, or should I still write an examination to pass?
We have not gone up to the level where a portfolio will give you the exam, but we are actually trying to make sure that in the curriculum we build opportunities for people to earn credits if they do a socially relevant project like what you mentioned, or courses, which is, these are all coming curriculum. We are also ensuring that some courses, at least some set of courses, they will revolve only around a project, like exactly the point which you mentioned, that in today's world, you cannot blame saying that it was syllabus did not teach us. You have hundred thousands of courses available across the world, and you cannot say that I don't have problems available. Again, you have hundred thousands of problems available. So we are saying that why don't we actually integrate that into the curriculum? So our challenge is that we are addressing a heterogeneous audience. So there may be people may not like that. They may something else. So how do I actually recognize that people are heterogeneous and try to create curriculums which are addressing everybody's needs? That is something which we are trying to do in the new curriculum. That is a shift which is happening, because all throughout, and maybe NEP also addresses that. For the first time in the country, we say that there should be autonomy, not for the institution, but for the learner. Till that point of time, we were only speaking about teacher. We were never speaking about learner. So first time we are speaking that there is a learner autonomy is required. Same thing is what we are trying to do. I would love what you said, that we need to actually ensure that, if somebody put up a portfolio, we should actually give mark. But we have actually creating activity points for people who actually contribute to some of these common communities and things like that as part of the curriculum. That's the best which is possible at this point. But I think going forward, we'll try to be more open.
I think we are already exceeded our time, but then to closing remarks with you, Anoop. You said that 2017 onwards, there were a lot of effort which you had put in with your initial company, and then suddenly a technology change comes and takes entire sweeps everything away. So then, what skill do you think? Are we really harping on an old concept of skill, or is things different now?
That's what I think I gave you a caveat that what skills, I don't know what skills would you have to impart. But I think the major mind shift that needs to happen is that your learning is never done. I think that you need to realize that I am a Java programmer or I am a C programmer and my life is all set. Those days are gone, right? If you really want to make, I personally believe that creativity is going to be a skill that will be of value. That's just a personal take. I can ask a AI tool to make music, but it'll only make music from what humans have already created. So it's going to be a blend of, what Elias has created or A.R. Rahman has created, right? I mean, nothing new is going to come out of it. So the originals, as if I may call it, is going to be of high value, much like a digitally detox world will be of high value if you stay disconnected for some. In tourism, I personally believe that a disconnected world is going to be a very high value tourism proposition in the days to come. Originality is going to be of high value. And that applies to everything. The way in which you teach, the way in which you sing, the way in which you produce movies, etc. All those things, originality is going to have a high value. Contributing to the data, that is currently all the data that I produce in terms of browsing, watching, liking, disliking, is taken for free. I think there is only one model where I have heard that Adobe is actually recognizing all the contributors or the images that they have taken to train their AI model, and even paying money for those photographers and videographers who have taken the videos and everything. So contributing into the data in terms of original content is also going to be a new skill. So if there is a new language, say if you are all software programmers sitting here, currently I put all my open source code into GitHub or GitLab or whatever tool. Now Microsoft owns GitHub. Microsoft is going to take all that code that you're going to write and create a copilot, which they will then charge you for creating more code. So I think a day is going to come when you are putting your source code in any language, you will get paid for it someday. And that is going, because there is also this question about If everything is going to be automated, then who's going to pay for everything or all these things, right? I mean, somebody needs to make money to spend money. I think that money is going to come in the form of the data that you produce. This is just a hypothetical situation, but Adobe is actually doing it. So there is a example that is out there. So if I take a reel, I put it on Instagram right now. Everybody watches it for free. Instagram uses it for free. But I think there will come a time when good content is going to be of value, wherein people will be willing to pay for original content, which will be then used to train the AI model. So content creation, creativity, I think it all boils down to originality. So whoever can be original will be a very high value. People who are the users will be a second tier or a lower tier, I would say. People who can actually refine the models with this data is going to be a tad higher. So that original data, somebody who will refine the models with that original data, somebody who will use the existing or the defined models to create new use cases, and that will be it.
Thank you for the organizers for calling us here, and I hope you are sitting late and we have made some contribution to the knowledge base. And I don't know if there are any time for questions. Otherwise, we will call it a day.
Yes, sir. Currently, all the creators on internet means you told about Instagram or YouTube or GitHub or any sort of all the open source contributors are getting.
Can I have a raise of hands so that we just find out where? Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Like contributors are generating some money from sources if they are contributing on YouTube, so they are generating revenue from advertisements, and on Instagram they are getting leads and also how they are already getting paid. So how it can be different?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir. You.
Yeah. So let's assume that I'm uploading this content right now, right? How much money will you make out of it? How much money will MuLearn make out of it? What do you think? In YouTube, I'll probably get 1,000 views for this panel discussion, right? And chances are that you will get zero money, right? That is. I mean, of course, there are influencers. I just saw somebody who talks in Malayalam about the AI. I forgot his name. Huh?
Umar Abdul
Yeah,
Salam.
Umar.
Yeah, Umar is there. Yeah.
So Umar is here. Umar is an influencer who has got how many million subscribers now?
Yeah.
Umar, come on, you don't need to be shy. You're an influencer.
Umar,
Right?
parayu.
600,000 people follows you, right? Now he makes serious money out of this. Hopefully, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen many people who make good money out of YouTube content, right? But what I'm trying to say is that even though I'm not making a single penny out of this particular video might be used for training purposes by some of the largest corporates of the world, which is YouTube, right? And are you getting your fair share? Probably not. That is what I'm trying to say. Yes, you can become a content creator. You can become part of the creator economy. You can make money out of it, which is what everybody is trying to do now. But what I'm saying is that every single thing that you do on the internet is data point that is contributing to a model. And who recognizes that? And who pays you for that? I mean, no answers here, but I just wanted to. That's why I said it's hypothetical.
I think we are running late, so let's conclude.
Thank you so much, all the panelists. And we have a small memento arranged, inviting the person now to hand over the memento.
Oh,